What's up, guys? This is Roger here from the Klein Reef, and I'm giving you an informational video on water parameters. I've seen tens of hundreds of upon posts and videos and articles and on this topic, and I thought I'd give my own insight and my water parameters. And water parameters I've asked from someone on Reef that just actually won Tank of the Month, so I got her input as well, and I'm going to mix all these sources together and to make one concise video for you. Now, the water parameters I'm going to talk about are pH, alkalinity, calcium, ammonia, nitrite, magnesium, phosphate, and the temperature as well. So, I might not go in order. Let's start with the basics. Temperature, probably want between 79 and 81. I have my tank set at 79. Doesn't fluctuate much from 79 ever. I don't think I've ever seen it go over 80.0 ever. I know some tanks like it hotter. I know I read on Reef a lot of people keep their tanks at 78. So I mean, there's a little bit of wiggle room with that. It's just all about acclimating your new corals to said temperature. But anything above 77 or 78 will be just fine, as long as it's not over 83. So that's temperature. Next, I'm going to go on to the big three. The big three are known as calcium, magnesium, and carbonate hardness, also DKH is what you measured in. Calcium, you want between 400 and 450, but you can go up as high as 560. But what I've noticed is the higher your calcium is, the lower your alkalinity will be generally. And you have to find that sweet spot. So my tank's balanced sweet spot is 420 and then 8.7 DKH. So I'm just giving you that's my balance, that's my tank. Anywhere you'll read articles that say 8 to 12 DKH. I mean, that's a big range. That all depends on your calcium. If you have high calcium, you're probably going to have a high alkalinity, or if it's too high, you'll have a low alkalinity. So there's definitely a balance there, and that's a whole video in itself, and I'll have to make a video on that as well. The next out of the big three is alkalinity or carbonate. This is basically a carbon source, so things other than corals might not use it. So anything basically alive can use the carbon source from the carbonate, like bacteria can break it apart, which is why your DKA may drop if you have low corals. But generally, it'll drop a lot faster when you do have a highly stocked tank like this one. So, where is it going with that? So you want that anywhere from 8 to 12. I have mine at, like I said, 8.7. Usually fluctuates from 8.7 to 9.0. It's not good to have it fluctuate that much, but I don't have a doser, so I have to I hate to eyeball it, but I have to eyeball it as of right now. The next one is magnesium, and what magnesium does is they keep those two ions separate. So they'll keep calcium ions and they'll keep carbonate ions from precipitating in the water column. And you want your magnesium level anywhere from 1200 to 1500, but 1300 is known as like the baseline. It's like if you have magnesium, you want it. If you had a Reef tank, you have to have it at 1300. This tank's at like 1500 plus because of the salt I was using before. Every time I did a water change, it put 1600 parts per million in, so I'm actually trying to get it kind of back down to 1450 is where I like it usually. It's what the frag tank is. So you want that anywhere from 1300 to 1500 is what the woman from Reef said, and so that's just her input on that one. But now I'm going to talk about the nutrients. So ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, you want as little as this as possible. You want 0 testable ammonia and 0 testable nitrite. That doesn't mean they're in the tank, that just means they're getting converted fast enough so where they're not affecting anything through that nitrogen cycle. And nitrates won't get converted, those have to get exported. And usually people do that by water changes, some type of nutrient export method like the Berlin system, a deep sand bed, a refugium, or just plain and simple water changes. Protein skimmers will help, but they're 30% effective. Doing a big water change will actually do a lot more for your nitrates than a big skimmer. So, so those you want as low as possible, but you don't want nitrates at 0 because that's how you strip a tank of nutrients and you get basically salt water and corals can't grow. It needs to be a little bit, but not a lot, because if you get a lot, you get a lot of algae growth. I just want to be clear, you're going to get algae growth if you have a little bit of nitrate and a little bit of phosphate. It's going to happen unless you're running zeolite. Basically, it's what I found. Like if you have a tank without zeolite, you're going to have algae no matter how disciplined you are with your maintenance. The next one is phosphate. Phosphate's the big one. I can make a whole video about phosphate probably. You want your phosphates, you want a low range test kit, but you want your phosphates between 0.01 and 0.03. You want to keep it really low. You don't want it 0 because corals actually use phosphate to color up and to grow. So having 0 phosphate will basically bleach all your SPS corals. I think your LPS too. They'll bleach LPS too, and you'll just kill them all. So you want to have a little bit of phosphate. If you have too much phosphate, you'll get big patches of hair algae growth. You'll get explosions of bubble algae and like stuff like that. You can see in my tank I have a couple patches of green hair algae in spots, and that's because usually that's a spot of decay. So I noticed it on my SPS. Whenever I knock a tip off and it breaks, that little section of it dies, creating a little bit of nutrients, and that's where algae likes to culture because that's its highest concentration point. And then as soon as it starts to grow, the coral like fights it off. So you'd be surprised how resilient corals actually are when fighting off other things around them. The next one I want to talk about, copper. Copper. You want 0 copper. Copper will kill everything. I've read horror stories about little kids throwing in, pennies in the tank because they think it's a wishing well and their whole tank crashes. So you want 0 copper, and that means if you're getting distilled water, make sure it's not condensed on copper coils, because I've heard stories, ions get trapped in the distilled water and then you put it in your tank and your tank crashes. So be careful with your distilled water source if you're using distilled, and also be careful. I know some supplements have copper in it too. You got to be careful with that as well. I can't remember off the top of my head which one. It was something from Kent. I think it was Kent's liquid carbon or something. I remember one of my friends had it and just nuked his tank because they had a bad batch, quotations, bad batch of this product, and it basically killed everything. So those are the big ones. Oh, the biggest one I totally forgot is salinity or specific gravity. I've seen literally any combination from 1.022 specific gravity to 1.026. So there's definitely a big fluctuation there. You just got to make sure when you're acclimating, you do it accordingly. I know if you're coming down in specific gravity, say you're tanking a fish or a coral from a 1.027 tank, whatever, which is what most fish stores keep it at. They keep it really high for some reason. And then you move it to a 1.023 tank, you're going to have to acclimate longer than if you were going up. I can't remember why off the top of my head, but I read that somewhere on Reef. I don't know, actually, off the top of my head, I don't remember if it's true or not. I'm going to do some research on that. But I know, regardless, do your acclimation well, because there's a lot of factors that cross and impact each other on an acclimation. So we're going to make sure you do those, you blend those factors together instead of just having them slam together and create a really stressful environment for whatever you're acclimating. So now I want to give you a little rundown of what I just said. So I'm going to give you my tank parameters, and then you can go off of whatever you want. So my temperature, 79. My specific gravity, 1.025. My calcium is 400 to 420 usually. My DKH is anywhere from 8.6 to 9.0. My magnesium is off the charts at 1600 plus. I'm trying to get that down. My nitrates are 0, undetectable. My phosphates are like 0.1. I got to bring those down. My ammonia, nitrites are both untestable. And what am I missing? pH is 8.2 in this tank, but you want to strive for 8.3. Anywhere from 8.0 to 8.5. This tank's at 8.1. And what else am I missing? There's no copper in this tank, or else everything would be dead. I think that's all. So I gave you guys some recommended settings. I gave you, or not settings, recommended parameters. I gave you my parameters. I gave you the input from the woman on Reef. So I gave you a good 3 sources. I don't know if you trust the woman from Reef. I do, because her tank's insane. I'll actually link it down below. 20-gallon Zeovit system. So it's really, she really knows what she's doing, and it's amazing. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you stick around for 10 minutes and learn something about water parameters. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, recommendations, leave them down below. And I'll see you guys later. Thanks so much for watching, and happy reefing, guys. I'll see you later.